In Europe specifically, there is still too much retail media just selling inventory, but we're starting to see the leaders really move towards building that commercial growth.
Another piece on Wall Street Journal, which stated that RMNs are being in their gangly teenager phase, rapidly growing but awkward, fragmented, and clunky to buy.
I think retail media alone has a definition problem. In 2026, a lot of people still call retail media a channel, and it's not a channel, it's its own ecosystem. It's about an operating model that connects media investment to actual commercial outcomes. So it's really thinking about marketing stakeholders, sales and finance teams to make decisions that really move towards the same commercial truth rather than optimizing independently. Before you even start asking the question of how you'll show up in ChatGPT or any other LLMs, what is your process for retail readiness today? Do you think you are actually retail ready today?
This is the Digital Shelf Insider podcast of Metriscart. Hi all, welcome back to the podcast, and I've got news for you. So Metriscart just released its MAP compliance and buy box reports, and I tell you, this is packed with insights, especially for brand teams, e-commerce teams, and pricing analysts who wants to do a couple of quarterly reporting, and whether it's just like understanding the SKUs that are affected by price erosion at a severe or a critical level. We give you recommendations of what you can do, what are the kind of next steps or action that you could take on marketplaces. The report covers a lot of information, especially on seller density, what the buy box distribution looks like for that SKU, and much more. It's very easy to get an audit for your brand. You just need to go to the report and submit your MAP policy, the MAP pricing and details, and we get back to you soon. And we've added a couple of categories right now. We'll be adding more in the coming months. I'm super excited for your teams because you get to know the underlying or the contributing factors why your net PPM will be affected. This is very critical for brands in terms of profit margins. So yeah. And for the podcast, we have Kavita Cariapa joining us today. She is the head of commerce media at Dentsu, and I'm super excited for this conversation. Let's get started. Hey, hi Kavita. Welcome to the podcast. Very excited to have you here to talk about how retail media is evolving and a lot of things. Thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions for you. We'll start a little broad. And the first one is that we're seeing US giants like Walmart and Kroger turn TV into a performance channel by acquiring CTV platforms and plugging first-party data into YouTube and TikTok. So how are you seeing the shift from retail media, which is like on-site sponsored products, to a broader commerce media ecosystem play out across Europe?
Yeah, it's an interesting question of definitions altogether, and I think retail media alone has a definition problem. In 2026, a lot of people still call retail media a channel, and it's not a channel, it's its own ecosystem. But when I think about commerce media and where we're sitting today, commerce media isn't just retail media plus off-site extensions like CTV or social or digital out of home. That to me is just an evolution of inventory and perhaps getting more and more full funnel. Commerce media to me and to Dentsu is really an evolution of operating models for the industry. So if I look at people or RMNs like Walmart and Kroger, as US retailers, they understandably have led with more inventory-led approaches because they have enormous scale. And they have massive authenticated audiences, and they've made their retail media networks very interoperable intentionally to activate across CTV, YouTube, and social. And that's what's made them so large and successful at scale. Very easy to work with too, from an agency and an advertiser perspective. Europe and EMEA is just fundamentally different. There are national champions in each market, but fundamentally there are just fragmented retailers in each one of these markets. Obviously, that leads to more fragmentation in broadcasters, in currencies, political climates, privacy frameworks, and again, just the commercial structures are quite different. So Europe, I don't see necessarily winning from following or replicating the US model, and that's often the question that we We get asked all the time at all of these industry conferences. Europe, I think, is in a very special position to define what commerce media means very differently. And again, because it's not just a retail media plus connected TV model for commerce media, it's about an operating model that connects media investment to actual commercial outcomes. So it's really thinking about marketing stakeholders, sales and finance teams to make decisions that really move towards the same commercial truth rather than optimizing independently or within the channels within retail media networks. So this is actually very important because every executive is going to define success very differently. A CMO in an organization may try to maximize that demand or brand growth. A chief commercial officer or revenue officer is really thinking about the customer relationships and customers being retailers, distributors, wholesalers. And a CFO actually just is focusing towards driving profitable growth, return on investment. Those conversations happen technically and sometimes in silos, but this is where commerce media and that evolution is really going to force all of those stakeholders, these conversations into the same room. And Europe, I see having an advantage here because these retailers have such a unique and deeper collaborative relationship with their brands and a closer connection to category management, joint business planning, and longer term partnerships. And that evolution isn't just selling more media inventory or expanding audience data. It's being a better commercial partner. How can you enable category leadership, enable more digital adoption in certain markets? So when I see retailers or retail media networks winning within Europe, EMEA in general, it might not just be who has the biggest retail media network. It's going to be the ones who help brands actually make better commercial decisions around their full business and ultimately understanding that brands don't necessarily need another advertising platform. They need partners to help them grow.
Wow. I'm very surprised to learn that you stressed on the collaborative relationship between brands and retailers in the Europe side. Uh, and I read a piece on Wall Street Journal which stated that, RMNs are being in their gangly teenager phase, rapidly growing, but awkward, fragmented, and clunky to buy, exactly what you mentioned. So, what does it mean in the Europe to see that, retail media is actually in the growing of phase or actually maturing?
Yeah, the poor gangly teenager. What a what a comment. And I'd argue that humans can stay awkward for years. So we obviously don't want that for retail media. We don't want it for commerce media. It's a rough statement, but retail media has definitely taken it's grown a lot in the past few years, specifically since the pandemic. But when we're thinking about that evolution for Europe at the comparison to America, I don't even like saying America, the US is the most mature retail media market. An FMCG could buy anywhere between 20 to 40 retail media networks. And that is insanely difficult. That itself is a very fragmented ecosystem. And Europe, I don't like saying it is immature, but it's quite different and it's a different complexity level. So with Europe growing up past the gangly teenage phase, I the question itself is a little bit flawed because it's solving for the wrong problem. And everyone is talking about the fragmentation in Europe and talking about how we need to standardize measurement faster. We need better attribution reporting faster. That is important and it's correct. But I would say the more mature industries aren't just going to be defined by better dashboards or more reporting.
Yeah.
It's going to be by solving, again, those bigger business problems. And in Europe specifically, there is still too much retail media just selling inventory. But we're starting to see the leaders really move towards building that commercial growth that I just spoke about. And that conversation isn't going to be just starting with you need to advertise in sponsored search or you need to advertise on display inventory. It should be streamlining those commercial conversations with how do we grow this category? How am I going to acquire new households to achieve your revenue goals as a brand and advertiser? How do we look towards basket size and really improve profitability across the board? So Europe doesn't necessarily need every retailer to measure exactly the same way. That is a very provocative statement. I know. I mostly say it because it is a bit unrealistic given the number of markets and the complexities across each retailer. But what we do need is a common commercial language. And if every retailer or retail media network is going to claim incrementality, we should agree as an industry on what incrementality means. And that doesn't mean just we need to standardize only on an IROAS metric. So for me, when retail media actually grows up, it's when retailers stop thinking like publishers and move towards those growth partners. And we start to see these champion retail media networks in each market moving towards commercial growth partners. And they are thinking about bigger commercial objectives, not just selling audiences, not just selling an in-store screen. It is becoming a true valuable partner to their advertisers and brands.
Totally. Uh, do you see a difference in the way retail media is perceived among the challenger or the D2C brands versus the legacy enterprise brands, especially when it comes to measurement and various aspects of it?
Yeah, retail media follows, it depends on the stakeholder, to be honest. I wish there was a clear answer on that. I think naturally, commerce, retail, trade teams, we see retail media as it's so exciting. It's proving that commercial value, but there's still a lot of convincing to be done towards brand stakeholders and actually fundamentally CMOs, CFOs. There is that measurement problem. The standardization does not exist, and attribution is so variable when we are thinking about the common language, and this is where I actually do love being on the agency side, we have a lot of power and control in our hands where we can actually help craft the story for our clients to say, here's what is moving the needle towards contribution. And that's different from attribution.
Yeah.
Right? Contribution is what is contributing towards growth for your brands in particular. And ultimately, that's something that all stakeholders really can align on is growth, right?
Yeah.
Growth can mean a few different things across stakeholders. But if we're proving the evidence is contributing towards a growth outcome, that's how we win as an agency. And when we win as an agency, that's how our clients win too.
Definitely. When we talk about closing the gap between digital demand and physical in-store execution, what are the biggest friction points for European retailers right now?
Yeah, it's the physical to digital is so interesting because Europe actually does spend quite a bit more in in-store media than the US. And coming to the US where majority of sales are still in-store media is maybe 2 to 3% of retail media spend. And now coming to Europe, it's been so interesting to see how much media is actually put towards in-store programs, particularly around screens, but even some other activations like, trade promotions, gamification, end caps, etc. The challenge in Europe, I don't think is the belief in physical retail. Everyone really does believe the fact that we should have more of it. It is the complexity of activating it. So unlike digital media, physical retail, it just doesn't scale the same way. Every retailer is going to have different store formats, promo calendars, creative specs, back-end technology, and even commercial priorities. So there isn't an easy interoperable way to buy or activate in-store experiences at scale. And when we reduce the conversation to just digital end caps or digital screens, we're also losing the conversation of other immeasurable touch points that can influence a shopper in store. So that could be retailer exclusive packaging. It could be seasonal displays, secondary placements, non-digital signage, sampling. Sampling is still one of my favorite in-store activations from when I was a child going grocery shopping with my parents. That is not always measurable in certain retail environments. So all of these immeasurable touch points actually also drive influence alongside the measurable in-store formats that are now seeping into retail media networks. And so to me, that's the opportunity that exists. Like digital media is going to be very interoperable. We're seeing partners like PackView and Sky make it very easy to buy digital media at scale. In-store media is not a channel, but it does require a certain capability mix. So this is where we as an agency help correlate and bring everything together from a planning moment and start thinking about commercial moments alongside brand behaviors and how we plan brand media essentially. So if we know we have certain retailer promo events, if we think about how we have certain brand moment events, like let's say it's a gaming month or a soup month, something that's really meaningful to the brand statements, that becomes an organizing principle in media planning and activation. So then we can actually start to orchestrate brand media, influence activity, CRM alongside what needs to happen in store and closest to the touch points. and still include the immeasurable moments alongside that to bring them into the storytelling to see how they can potentially influence the conversion at the end of the day. And I don't think success is going to be measured in just how much in-store activity we start investing in from any type of retail media perspective. It's how consistently we're connecting everything that shopper does from the measurable and immeasurable when you walk into a store, because it's all about what the shopper is experiencing from an end-to-end statement. And so European retailers, I think, bringing in all the influence that they have from the culture of the store, from the store associates, how they're developing retailer specific programs for their brands, and alongside the agencies that are supporting those advertisers, that's where the opportunity to evolve exists with physical media.
Wow. I mean, I love the point that you made about how we bring together the measurable and the immeasurable moments, because it's so crucial. Like, both are contributing factors, and we need to connect the dots so that the brand gets the full picture of what's working and what's not working exactly. Uh, Another question that I don't skip asking lately is about AI. So Gen AI is definitely
Yeah.
changing the way, product discovery is happening, or the way the consumers are searching. Long tail keywords are in. So how do we prepare brands for this shift in commerce discovery?
I'm now actually trying to remember if I mentioned AI in like the first like 15 minutes or so,
No.
but it could be this might be a record. But I'd
Yeah.
say with like AI readiness, we're talking about it every day,
Oh,
multiple
yeah.
times a day. I can't even say it's a buzzword. It's just integrated in our advisory as an agency at dentsu. But to me, I think the mistake the industry is making is that this is something that is completely new.
Yeah.
In reality, to me and to just agency and how we're approaching the consultative approach of this is that it's an evolution of retail readiness. So if we take a few years back to 2012 or 2013, this is where Amazon like fundamentally changed how brands were thinking about digital commerce, and
Yeah.
suddenly product detail pages and brand stores were these prolific strategic assets for brands.
Yeah.
And that came out the concept of retail readiness, right? It became having complete catalogs, very accurate product data. You needed to have optimized imagery, had to have
A
5 to 7
lot of rules to
images.
follow.
Maybe that video too, all of that helped drive like the algorithm, right? The A9
Yeah.
algorithm. And that became like this philosophical principle for years to come. But even that itself was an evolution of SEO for commerce, right? So
Yeah.
now fast forward, like we're in this state of AI or answer readiness, and it's stemming from that same place. The way that we're helping our brands really advise is asking, before you even start asking the question of how you'll show up in ChatGPT or any other LLMs, what is your process for retail readiness today? Do you think you are actually retail ready today? And I start asking these very focused questions is, do you think your catalog is clean? Are your PDPs compliant? Do you have governance around data quality and feed quality? Who is the owner of the said process and who are the stakeholders involved? How often are you running content readiness queries and examinations? That foundation and that principle is truly what we have to diagnose as an agency for our clients. And that sets the principle for then how we actually determine what AI and agentic answer readiness will be in the future. So those foundations crucially are so important because AI reasons over information that already exists. And if our product content is inconsistent, if it's incomplete, potentially if it's inaccurate, that is going to lead towards a bad sales result. And I'd say even more importantly, it's going to lead towards a bad end consumer experience.
Right.
So when we think about the foundations of retail readiness or what readiness means today, putting those foundations and codifying it is so important. And then we could start moving into answer readiness or AI readiness. And that is now a new diagnostic process of understanding what consumers are actually asking in these LLMs, not just what they're searching for. It's what questions are actually emerging in these large language models. And how are we even thinking about how consumers are interacting with new shopping assistants, what conversations are happening in social platforms, and still kind of going back to the vintage trope of what questions are coming in customer service, FAQs, reviews. All of that is going to be influencing answer readiness for tomorrow. So the diagnostic approach is going to be very valuable because it tells you not only the information that consumers need, but naturally just how they're trying to frame up problems that they're trying to solve. So, and what I want to avoid, I guess, is the biggest mistakes from the early days of digital commerce. And those of us who probably are dating ourselves now, who are working on those early new item setup templates from Amazon, we do a lot of keyword stuffing
Yeah.
within the catalog character count limit.
Yeah.
We need to avoid that in this new era of answer readiness. It's not about stuffing the same amount of answers into metadata and ensuring that we have these exclusively long product detail pages.
Yeah.
That's not where AI is going to take us, and AI is not going to really benefit from the overload of just bad content and bad metadata. It's not about stuffing. It's about creating just better content, better structured, and more trustworthy information that generally answers questions. AI is going to reward, we always say this, it's clarity, context, credibility, far more than it's going to reward volume. So brands need to recognize that discovery, it's going to extend beyond that detail page. Again, as we spoke about influence, there's so many influential touch points across retailer content, across creators, PDPs, FAQs. All of these are influential touch points in terms of content, and that's where AI is increasingly going to learn from each one of these moments, and the credibility within each one of those touch points will far matter more. So it's not about a process of just like creating a checklist for our advertisers, like the
Yeah.
simple retail readiness. It's a bit more complex, but understanding the process, that diagnostic approach, and how we're course correcting to create that credibility is really what's going to matter for brands going forward.
For real. I mean, when you say, you took things back in time, like what happened in 2013 and versus how it's now, it feels like, we were building blocks step by step, like all this while brands were learning how to kind of, have structured information out there, do keyword stuffing and all of that. And right now it's become very conversational. And we're past the July 27th date. Everyone was waiting, for Amazon to have
Yeah.
the title character length correction. So what are your thoughts? Like it's become short and it means, and you mentioned that, it's not about adding more and more details into product pages. It's becoming more relevant to or closer to what the shopper is searching for.
Yeah, and yeah, it's not about stuffing, and I think the lengths matter. Also, I I love that I love the experience just as a consumer, right? Sometimes we keep our marketing hats on too long and we need to take them off and just be
Yeah.
humans and
Yeah.
consumers at the end of the day. There is so much content in front of us at any given time on our laptops, on our phones, just out there in the real world when we go out. I think we want more truncated content, or we want content that's far more relevant to us.
Yeah.
So when I think again about just like what words we're putting on a detail page, what words we're putting in a brand store, images, we do have to understand what the relevance is. The industry is not doing enough diagnosis and analysis on creative performance, on relevancy, on credibility. Like these are really key
Yeah.
concepts that we need to create standards around as well. That's actually what's going to really drive these algorithms and the agentic workflows going forward. But we're becoming very reactive, really looking towards a PDP conversion, a product detail page view, iROAS, ROAS metric, and it's becoming very performative in a way versus much more diagnostic. And I keep mentioning that word very intentionally because it does require a good amount of analysis and breadth of scope to understand how everything is coming together from an influence model.
Definitely. We've almost come to the end of this episode, and I have one last question for you, Kavita. So, how has the role of commercial sales enablement changed now that a brand sales team needs to understand like clean rooms, attribution models, and data sharing just as well as a media planner does?
Yeah, it's a great question and it's a complex one too. And
Yeah.
I'd say that brands don't have a problem with data. They have more data than ever before.
Oh
It's
yeah.
what to do with it.
Yeah.
And as an agency, we can unlock a lot of shopper data, and it's really on us to help streamline the data quality that's coming through, what is high attention driving data, and then also what the data means in terms of an end consumer. And that's a bit different than just an audience for media planning. It's like, who are these shopper profiles that are really making that are really driving growth for your business. So when we think about how sales teams can unlock data, we can help from an agency side. We know who's buying what, we know where they're shopping, who's discovering products, who's influencing. We can turn those into insights for our brand's sales teams. But here's where they can have richer conversations with retailers. Instead of kind of leading with assumptions around, oh, we've saw these audience profiles, they can kind of walk in with a deeper understanding of shopper behavior, but they can translate the shopper behavior into categorical opportunities where incremental demand actually exists. And I think that's where retailers have a big unlock with the brand sales teams, because everyone needs to unlock the incremental demand that's at play. And that lives a little bit outside of retail media, but now we do have that data-driven approach that agencies can bring to our clients and prove that out to the sales teams. I will say, though, that people influencing commerce, the way it's happening is expanding very rapidly.
Yeah.
So now we have creators in the mix too. And creators are their own form of a brand. I would say digital sales reps, field sales reps in a way, but they exist in social platforms.
Yeah.
They're increasingly educating customers, they're demonstrating products, and they're shaping purchase decisions long before someone ever reaches a retailer. So they're becoming an extension of these field sales or digital sales teams, but they're also really influencing that demand and creating that ecosystem of demand. So now, even looking farther ahead, AI agents are going to become another layer of this ecosystem. I mean, it's just crazy when you think about evolution and how quickly it's going to happen. They're also going to be increasingly recommending products, they're comparing alternatives, looking at purchasing decisions alongside that digital footprint that brands have already set. So if I, from an agency side, I'm thinking about the opportunities, we have all of this great shopper data as something that enables sales teams. I'm not just thinking about the field and digital sales teams. I'm thinking about all the sales contributors that are at play for my brand, my clients. Our data should enable every part of the ecosystem, and it has a role to play with each one of those specific sales teams, using air quotes here very loosely.
Yeah.
But that really enables customer teams to social creators to AI agents, etc. And that's the evolution where shopper data needs to influence. So the brands, I'm happy everyone has access to data. Those who put assigned role to that data are the ones who are going to win in this new agentic ecosystem and more evolution of commerce going forward.
Yeah, for sure. I have a fun question. You said agentic commerce is added to the mix of, contributing to sales. Do you think there's another leg coming up in the future very soon?
Another leg aside of agentic commerce. Oh my gosh, I worry about this every day.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say worry. Maybe that was maybe too pessimistic. I do think about it every day, what the future is, and I'm hesitant to put forward a prediction past like the next 5 years. I'm not a futurist. I am a commerce expert. To me, I'd say more, instead of predicting the future, what the next 10 to 15 years looks like, I need to help my clients enable foundations, enable great data quality, readiness, process workflows, and power the stakeholders to make decisions in the right way that's going to drive growth. That's my job as an agency. And I'm really freaking proud to do it because those foundations are what is going to power the next 3 to 5 years, 10 years to come. And you can't put value on great foundations, great processes. It's very undervalued in general, but now we're at a time where it's going to make or break brands going forward.
Wow, what a conversation with you, Kavita. Totally enjoyed it. And I'm sure those of you listening have so many hot takeaways. Like, I loved what you stated about we need to get more diagnostic instead of being performative or going metric by metric or by the numbers. Totally nailed it. Thank you so much, Kavita, for joining us. Such a awesome.
Thank you for having me. This is a great way to start the week.
Awesome.